So are you ready to do this?
Let's do it. Immersive Reader.
Yes. All right. So we'll go around the horn and introduce ourselves just in case you don't know who we are. I am Gina Rogers. I'm one of the digital learning consultants at Grantwood AEA.
She's going to be the star of the show today.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. We're going to expect a real lively performance from you. I'm Nikki
great.
Carney doing color commentary this morning.
And I'm Amber Bridge, and I'm going to be monitoring all of you out there in the Facebook world. So give us a shout out, tell us who's here. We would love to know and get all of your questions as they come on this great tool that we're starting with today.
Yes. And so said tool is Immersive Reader. And so to start off, we always like to situate our Facebook Lives kind of in our continuous learning plan that we pushed out at the beginning of school closures this spring. And in that continuous learning plan, Phase 4 really focuses on differentiation and trying to meet all the needs of all of our students. Ideally, we'd like to be thinking about this from the beginning or from the onset. So from the point that you begin designing a lesson, always thinking about what are the edges in your classroom. So what are the needs that all of your learners are going to need in order to be successful in that class, and then designing for that. And I think that this is especially critical in an online environment, especially in this kind of emergency setting that we're in right now, where we haven't had the time to really train our online learners. And so providing them a lot of flexibility, a lot of support in that online environment so that they can be successul. So Mindy, what are your thoughts on
what are my
immersive reading?
Color commentary? Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think especially the way I look at it too is I think Immersive Reader is going to really benefit students who maybe don't have, like right now, our kids are, doing schoolwork or independently working on whatever it is they're doing. So what I think is really great about Immersive Reader is that I think it kind of provide some of that support for younger students too. I always have a elementary lens, especially a primary lens, and I think Immersive Reader really helps our younger students be more independent as non-readers or those kids that are, the directions might be a little bit more complicated than they're able to handle. So I really think Immersive Reader kind of supports that too and supports parents in a different way.
Yes, for sure. So why don't we go ahead and jump into Immersive Reader and see some of the features. I actually am going to unplug my headphones so that I am hopeful that you'll be able to hear the read aloud if I do unplug the headphones. I think that might be, that when they're plugged in might be prohibiting that. So I'm going to share my screen right now.
As Gina's sharing her screen, we're just going to give a shout out to Christina Roots, who's watching with us, and Mindy's sister.
Oh, well, hello, Christina and Nikki, or Shelly. Which
Shelly.
is it? Hi, Shelly. Hi, good morning. Hi.
All right, so Immersive Reader is baked into a few different online platforms, and it's showing up in more and more online platforms. One of the places that we really like Immersive Reader, one of the pieces that, or one site that we really like that Immersive Reader shows up in is Wonderopolis. So Wonderopolis is just a collection of different short nonfiction pieces that are framed around kind of a guiding question or something like that. And so I am going to just grab this first wonder of the day, number 2579. What can you do at a trade school? And so this wonder just talks a little bit about just some of the different options that are available here at a trade school. There's always a video that goes along with the wonder of the day, along with some text too. And so you can see it's really an engaging site, but however, might have trouble accessing this and reading this. If I am a non-reader, if I am an English as a second or English language learner, or, if I just have some additional support needs. So baked into Wonderopolis, there is this button here that says listen. And if I hover over it, you can see my Immersive Reader tag shows up. And so I'm going to click on that. And that will pull the text right into the Immersive Reader window. And so if you were along with us for Wakelet, you probably have seen this before. And so when I pulled that in there, if I go ahead and click play.
What can you study at a trade school? Have you ever wondered?
You'll be able to hear the reader read aloud. Now, what's really cool about Immersive Reader is there's some different features that are built in to continue to support readers. And support designing for those edges. And so if I click on my little text button right up here at the top, one of those is to change the size of the text. So if I have a student that needs magnification, they can ratchet up the size a little bit. I can increase the spacing to make it a little bit easier to read if that is a better visual fit for me. There's some options for different fonts to take a look at, and then some different theme options as well. If I click on my magic wand, that will give me some different grammar options. One of the ones that I think that's really the coolest is the syllabication. And so if I click that on, then I will see how that word is syllabicated or broken down. And it will help me with my kind of segmenting or chunking out that word so I can access and read those words that might be unfamiliar to me. There's also an option to highlight different parts of speech too. So I can highlight, for example, all of the nouns in the text with a certain color, or all of the verbs. Turning off my syllabication, I'm going to move one over to the reading preferences. And so this will help me with some different line focus. So if I click on that, I can just focus in on one line, 2 lines, or a larger paragraph chunk of text. If I click that off, I can use my picture dictionary. I can turn that on and off. So let's take a look at, for example, study. If I click on that, we can see a picture of what study means. If I click on that, I can listen to what the definition of study is. And then another really neat feature of Immersive Reader is the translation options that are built in. I always think that this is really, really powerful because they have such a great reader that's built in for translation. And so if I'm going to translate this entire document or this text, and let's go ahead and translate actually to Spanish. So go Mexico, Spanish, entire document. We can see that it translates that entire document into Spanish. So rather than word by word, the entire document is translated. And then if I click on play.
Que puedes estudiar en una escuela de comercio. ¿Alguna vez te has preguntado que se puede estudiar en una escuela de comercio? ¿Qué carreras requieren que vayas a una escuela de comercio?
We can see that it will read loud in Spanish as well, or in the translation language. And so there's some really awesome features that are built right into that Immersive Reader. I'm going to turn that translation by document off and then jump out.
So I might add too that where Gina is at, I've had this question before. One thing to know, like if you go to Wonderopolis, you're not going to see that little listen icon until you click into an actual post or, like a link of some sort. So if you get there and you're like, well, I don't see it, you have to actually get into one of those posts to see it. The other thing that I think is fantastic is once your students learn how to work Immersive Reader, it's the same in all of these integrations, which I think is really great for students, because once they know that tool, lots of things kind of open up for them. And one other thing I would point out is I know there are schools that use iPads. Immersive Reader does work on an iPad as well. So if you've had your students in the past use the text-to-speech feature in the iPad, that's a great function for those students. One thing I never really liked about that is it still has that pretty robotic voice. I feel like Immersive Reader has more of a human sounding voice, which I think is much more engaging for students too.
Yeah, for sure. So in addition to Wonderopolis, it is built into some other tools that are out there. And so one of those tools that we love is Wakelet. And so here we have my Wakelet boards open. I'm just going to open up my Martin Luther King example board. And so you can see I had added a video of myself. We talked about this the last time with one of the last times with Wakelet. You'll notice these little text or book icons with the little speaker icon over it. And so that's where Immersive Reader lies. And so Immersive Reader lies in any of the text that you add into a Wakelet. So if you add in a text block, it will show up there. But also within any web articles that you link in to your Wakelet board. So for example, this article comes out of just nobelprize.org. And if I hover over it, you'll see that reader mode shows up with the beta flag next to it. So if I click on that, it will pull it into a cleaned up reader mode. But then you'll notice my Immersive Reader tag is up here at the top, or my tab. So if I click on that, it will pull my article right into Immersive Reader. And so that's a really powerful way to curate and organize some content that you might want your students to engage with, and then also have that built-in accessibility right there for them. Additionally, we talked about the text boxes being an Immersive Reader, and that shows up there too, we can see. Another place that we have Immersive Reader built right in is Buncee. And so if you would like to experiment with Buncee, it's kind of interesting place where you can put together some like interactive kind of lessons, almost like slide decks, but they've got some really neat visuals that are built in there. And then they do, when you share them with your students, they do have Immersive Reader that's built into it as well. And so this is just an example of one that I started building a while back. And so I think what's interesting, oops, there's my little Immersive Reader icon that shows up, is that they have these like rotating three-dimensional figures and things like that that you can bring into a Buncee. And then if I want to click on Immersive Reader, that'll bring that content from the first slide in there. Moving on. And then you'll see there's my Immersive Reader content. And so if you had a lesson that you were going to have your students engage with, you wanted to add some text in there, this would be a great place to possibly build that lesson. And there's a lot of free objects or different manipulatives that you can build into that lesson too. And then the last piece that we want to show you is the Immersive Reader non-official Chrome extension. And so I'm going to bring up maybe
oh boy,
something from the
what will be on today's headlines. It's always a gamble, Gina, always a gamble.
Well, I was hoping that the science section would come right up, but.
Okay.
All right, we'll pull this up. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my Immersive Reader extension. I've got it already installed, and so I can tell it's installed because it's that little black and white icon that shows up there in my extensions, and it says, read this page to me. Now, a lot of times folks will want to highlight and then click on that.
Me, every time.
And then it will say, to get started, just select some text on your website, but then you have to right click it and choose read this to me. Right. So just follow the instructions that it says when you click on it.
Do what it tells you to do.
Tell me what to do. So I'm going to go ahead and select this text, right click, and then you'll notice my options and right click. One of those says, help me read this. Click on that. It pulls the text right in there. I can click on my play button, which is hidden right now, right down there.
Cases are growing by 2 to 4.
And that's where that lives. And we've got all those same Immersive Reader functions that are built in.
Right, so this is really great for Chromebook users. And Gina did mention that it's an unofficial Chrome extension. Just so you know what that means, it doesn't mean that it's like a bad Chrome extension or something you should be worried about. It's just not a Microsoft product. So the technology behind Immersive Reader itself is open source. And so they tossed that out to the public, and there was someone who took that and put it into a Chrome extension so that it was available in all types of places except for Google Docs, right, Gina? Didn't you say you've tried it in Google Docs and it doesn't work?
Yeah, it doesn't show up in Google Docs, or it can't work in Google Docs. And then there might be some other online places that,
sure.
you know, like online platforms where when you're signed in or whatever. The one that I was wondering about was Actively Learn. Like if I was signed in to Actively Learn and tried to use that, if it would show up there.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but you know, you're just online content that comes from a newspaper or a website of some sort, that Immersive Reader non-official Chrome extension works well.
And so it really does kind of let you travel and put that in the student's toolbox to go with them wherever they go out on the interwebs. So we love that tool and hope that it continues to be supported by the private sector out there. Some guy doing a great job, some woman out there doing a great job. So
yes, for sure. All right. So I just wanted to check in with Amber, see if there's any.
Hey, all's quiet on the Facebook front.
Okay.
Maybe we can ask if anybody's tried Immersive Reader before or taught their students about it. I think that would be something interesting to kind of talk about for just a minute about, like, when a student has access to Immersive Reader, how does that change their life as a learner?
Yeah.
So I'm going to, once again, always take the primary elementary lens. And I think what is really great about Immersive Reader is that a lot of times there can be a lot of different levels of reading going on in a classroom. And because of that, sometimes it's hard for students to have conversations with one another about the text that they've been engaged in. But with Immersive Reader, it kind of levels that playing field and allows students who might not necessarily be able to engage with one another in conversations access the same level of text and have those conversations while they still may need to be reading at their own level in different situations. I think it really has a powerful opportunity for students to engage with one another. I also think that to me, a lot of times students who are struggling with reading or can't access English text or something like that, it really inhibits their learning in lots of different ways. And so if we can supply a resource for them to be able to access those different things, once again, really levels the playing field for those students.
Yeah, I would agree. And also just from the secondary lens, we do have the same phenomena that happens where you have a variety of different reading levels. And this provides an opportunity for all of our kids to engage in grade level text. A lot of times you will encounter a student that is dyslexic profile or whatnot. And so like having them read, especially right now in this emergency situation, or access text on their own at home might prove to be difficult. And so building in those accessibility features or calling out the accessibility features that are available to them is really important to make sure that they still feel successful as a learner and that they don't completely disengage from that learning experience.
I totally agree. That's what I kind of think about in this environment specifically. Is we talk about a lot of parents that are working from home right now, and kids are trying to do stuff, but they might need help. And there might be a lot of times that teachers are reading things out loud in general to their students. And this gives the opportunity to have things just being read aloud to them. I think there's so much power in the read aloud for students at all levels to be able to hear other voices too, outside of the ones that are in their house right now.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and if you think about just in a classroom in general, how much learning is gleaned from like conversation or from teacher reading aloud or from like teacher doing a think aloud or something like that with a text, that's going to be missing in a lot of cases. What's going to be there is read this, respond to these questions, or read this, show me your understanding in some way. And so if the initial hump that we have to get over, the initial challenge that we have to conquer is accessing the text, this does provide us some options for accessing that text. All right.
Wendy, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going to happen moving forward?
Oh, sure. So our plan, we're starting to slow down our Facebook Lives just a smidge. And so this will be our last Facebook Live for this week. However, today my plan is to put out a poll, which I've never done before. So I don't know how it will look or what it's going to, I have no idea. Yeah. So we are kind of looking for ideas because as of right now, we've kind of either been given suggestions or requests for some of the tools that we've shared. But we've also guessed a little bit at what we think maybe would be good tools to share with you. So we want to ask you, what is it that you'd like to see moving forward? We're kind of starting to round out the school year. What can we do to support you in your learning over the next, 3 weeks, I guess, right? So please look for that poll today and, let your voice be heard and tell us what you'd like to learn about next. And that will be coming next week. I don't think we have a day yet for Facebook Lives next week. We have a team meeting coming this week and we'll schedule the rest of those and make sure that you kind of tag along on the page still, keep following us, and we'll let you know what's
catch up, right?
What's that?
Or catch up.
Yes, or catch up and watch some old videos. And please always feel free. We are still checking those comments. So if you have questions or things that you're wondering, please toss them in the comments and we'll get you pointed to your digital learning consultant or, answer the question if it's a simple one. And we want to continue to support you the best that we can.
Yes, for sure. And I think that we should also make sure that we wish everyone a very, very happy Teacher Appreciation Week. We know that what you're doing right now is so hard and we're right there with you. So we just want you to know that. And we appreciate everything that you are doing right now to make our learners have the best experience possible. All right. So with that, Amber, should we sign off?
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and check back with us and fill out that poll. We want to know more of what you want to learn.
Bye.
Bye.